That massive Minnesota fraud scandal is in spotlight today on Capitol Hill. 2 Senate hearings zeroing in on where the money went and who cashed it in. By the way, the money now being looked at is about $9 billion. Lawmakers now sounding the alarm on so-called fraud tourism. Have you heard of this? 2 men from Pennsylvania pleaded guilty to traveling to Minneapolis to steal more than $3 million from Minnesota taxpayers. Fox Business correspondent Darren Botelho reports live on Capitol Hill. Darren.
Hi, good morning, Harris. So about $3.5 million in fraud was discovered. This is according to the Department of Justice. The 2 men you talked about that went from Pennsylvania over to Minnesota to commit this fraud, they pleaded guilty in court today of scamming Medicaid beneficiaries, get this, at homeless shelters and Section 8 housing. And what's most notable about this case, Harris, according to the DOJ, this represents the first charges involving the use of artificial intelligence to further a fraud scheme targeting healthcare programs in Minnesota, with the 2 fraudsters we talked about concealing the scheme by using AI, including chatgpt, to create fake records when questioned by insurance companies. Exclusive to Fox this morning, Attorney General Pam Bondi releasing the statement saying criminal fraud not only robs taxpayers, it shatters trust in our institutions. Under President Trump's leadership, today's convictions are just the beginning. Our prosecutors will work tirelessly to unravel criminal fraud schemes and charge their perpetrators in Minnesota and across the country. All this news, Harris, is coming as 2 Senate committees hold high-profile hearings. That's happening this afternoon here on Capitol Hill about fraud and foreign influence in government programs.
We're talking about billions and billions and billions of dollars. It is an ungodly sum of money. It's money leaving the country in suitcases, literally stashed into suitcases, taken in airports, taken overseas. We're talking about a systemic problem here, particularly in these blue states, where the taxpayers is being robbed blind. You got to feel like if you work hard and pay taxes in this country, you're just getting ripped off left, right, and center.
And sorry to say, Harris, this is not just a Minnesota problem problem, I should say. The Small Business Administration on Friday suspending more than 100,000 California borrowers. This is over $9 billion in suspected pandemic-era fraud. Harris?
Wow, this seems endless, but they are chasing it. Darren, thank you. Congressman Riley Moore of the great state of West Virginia, member of the House Appropriations Committee, is in focus now. First of all, I want to just get your reaction to, I think it's new. Perhaps it's always been, but we're uncovering it now, this fraud tourism.
Well, thanks, Harris. And what I believe is that this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is just the tip of the iceberg. We're just getting underway and figuring this out. And as you saw in the lead up to this, Senator Hawley talking about suitcases of cash leaving the country. I think what we're going to find out in Minnesota is that this money ultimately helped fund terrorists in Somalia who we are currently trying to defeat. So I think that's what's going to come out of this, is that this is part of a terrorist financing scheme, was an aspect of this.
You and I have talked on previous occasions as we both have adhered ourselves to what's going on against Christians around the world, particularly in one place. And people have heard me say this, where there is persecution and execution of Christians, and that is Nigeria. Now the United States and Nigeria are moving forward on a new security agreement. In fact, just this past weekend, gunmen killed 3 people and kidnapped 11 others, including a Catholic priest. That comes as more than 160 kidnapped Christians were freed last week. So that's a movement. However, many others were killed. President Trump warned last November that U.S. aid would be cut if Nigeria failed to protect the people there.
No administration in modern history has done more to confront the plight of persecuted Christians around the world than we have. With us, it's a mission. A lot of anti-Christian bias, and you see it going in foreign countries. I mentioned Nigeria. There are others. We're hitting them very hard. My administration is confronting head-on the militant and really intolerant campaign that tried to drive religious believers out of public life.
A Nigeria-based human rights organization says more than 7,000 Christians were killed in Nigeria just last year alone. And by the way, those numbers don't go all the way until the end of the year. So they are higher. And as that information becomes available, we will report it to you. You add that to the 125,000 killed since 2009. Congressman, you recently went to Nigeria to learn more about the violence firsthand. I know you briefed the president on this. You turned in a report after that. But now you have said, and I want to quote you, that in the past few weeks, we have seen one of the most horrifically bloody days in recent history. Why do you say that?
Well, right now, the folks that I am talking to on the ground have described what's happening in the Middle Belt in the north of Nigeria right now in the last 10 days as a bloodbath. Potentially as many as 300 have been killed throughout that region of Nigeria. We've had this priest who has been kidnapped as well with 10 of his parishioners. 3 of them were killed in one of the states of Nigeria where we had about 150 people killed. And I will point out, a lot of those were Muslims, actually, that were refusing to submit to Sharia law and were trying to follow the Constitution of Nigeria. They were killed, but amongst those were also Christians, and they were burned inside of a church. They set it on fire. So it's just wanton death and murder and destruction that continues. But working with the administration, we are making steps in the right direction to address this persecution. The president is very singularly focused on addressing this. We now have special forces in Nigeria in a non-combative manner. They're there assisting the Nigerians. We have just signed a security cooperation roadmap with the Nigerian government and their military to continue to work on this. And we have also conditioned their security assistance in the last state foreign operations bill and appropriations that was just signed into law by President Trump.
Yeah, this is a lot of movement. You were talking about that one area, and residents told Reuters the attackers that hit their village were jihadists. In fact, these Islamic radical jihadists are what are being pointed to. You and I have talked about them before. They had been preaching inside their village, urging the locals to abandon Nigeria's state and their religion, Christianity, and adopt Sharia rule. When the villagers refused, the militants opened fire on them. So you're right, it's not just the people who are already Christians, it's those who might be open to helping Christians at this point. And I know that Nigeria's president, Tinubu, has said that they've deployed an army battalion to some of these areas. Are we making enough difference to where he's going to take some real action now?
Yes, but one of those actions that he needs to take, and he has said, he stated this publicly just when he was, prior to being president, was in the Senate, or governor rather, is that he wanted to see a federalized police force, which is absolutely something that has to happen. Each state has to have the ability to secure their own people. Right now, you just have the police force in Abuja. It's a national police force. We need to arm the different police forces of the states throughout Nigeria to be able to protect the Christians that are being martyred throughout this country and provide security in a country that is facing massive insecurity challenges because of this centralized control right now that's been taking place.
Well, look, Congressman Moore, I know you've been all over this. Religious freedom is something that we stand for in this country, and when we see light being covered by darkness, we want to help. Thank you for all that you're doing, and thank you for the latest on all of this.
Thank you. God bless you.
God bless you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.